Hi everyone, welcome back to Running Me Crafts Online Tutorials, Knitting Machine Workshop. As you saw at the beginning of this video, yes, it's our 20th video. Crikey, I don't know where the time's gone. 20 videos. It feels like it was only yesterday when I was putting this channel together, back in November, whenever it was. And here we are, 20 videos later, and still going strong. I hope you're enjoying the Knitting Machine Workshop series we're doing currently. We covered the knitting machine basics, casting on, casting off, knitting a tube, and we've also made a beanie hat. So now we're going to move on to making a scarf, a winter scarf, using our knitting machine. Items required: 2 balls of wool, got 200 grams worth here of DK wool in grey, a pair of scissors, my lucky darning needle, and 6 clothes pegs. And also the star of the show, my 48 needle knitting machine. Now before we get started and get ready to cast on, there's just a couple of little checks we need to make on the machine before we get started. And first of all, this is important because this where I've been caught out a couple of times, is the tension arm here at the front of the machine, this magical bit here. Here's a tip: if you're storing the machine between projects, I'd strongly advise, if on your machine you can remove this part, I would remove it and put it in storage. And the reason being is, a couple of times between projects when I've put it back into storage, this part unfortunately snapped off, and I've had to mend it several times. So just to avoid that in the future, best to remove that one if it's possible. Okay, after that important tip, now it's time to move on to our pre-knitting checks. Okay, the first of our checks to make on our machine before we do our scarf is to set the machine to tube, because the winter scarf we're going to make in this video are using the tube setting rather than the flat panel. Next, make sure our tension arm here is properly attached. Well, that's already been done, so only just remember to check to make sure it's attached. If you're like me, you do remove it between projects to avoid it getting broken. We set our row counter to 0, and also to get our machine ready for cast on. So we turn the crank either clockwise or counterclockwise until we get our machine set to the correct position for casting on, which will be the white hook here, which indicates number 48 on your right, and this pink hook here, which is number 1, which should be on your left. Now those checks are complete, we are ready to cast on, so time to grab some wool. Right, our machine now checked and ready to go. So our counter's set at 0, our hooks are in the correct position, the tension arm is attached. Now it's time to set the machine up to cast on. So extend out a length of wool from the first ball you're going to use. So go for about 1 foot, and then using this loop, put that round hook number 1, and just hold it there for a moment while we just turn the crank clockwise until that goes, so we can see that's now gone down. So next we're going to miss hook 2, and we're going to go to number 3. So when you cast on, as you may have seen in the basics video, is we first put the yarn on the odd number of hooks only to begin with for the casting on. So go to 1, skip 2, then to 3, skip 4, then to 5, and so on. So that's at 5, skip 6, go to 7, number 8, skip 8, go to number 9, and go to 11, we're at 13, and 15, 17, into 19, where's the 20, go to 21, 23, yeah, it's almost like Monopoly. This is, isn't it? Yeah, don't pass go, don't collect £200, go straight to jail. You can always use that as a rhyme to remember how to set the machine up. So yeah, do not pass 26, go straight to 28. But yeah, go straight. Yeah, do not pass 28, go straight to 29. It's going to take a little while to, yeah, it'll probably take a little while to work out the rhyme for that. So we're up to, oh, let's get on 33, not 32. Now be sure to unravel some more wool off the first ball you're using as you go. Especially on a larger machine like, especially on a 48 needle machine like this one. 37, 39, 41, 43, 45, 47, now we're coming up to the important part now. So we're at number 47. I'm just going to turn the crank, hold the wall here so it catches, goes 47 and catches 48, and when it does, we're going to feed the wall into here, into the groove, and set the tension. I'm going to set it to, now for DK wool on this machine I use this one, the centre one, and they're like so. Unravel a little bit more. So we're just going to do a couple of rows initially, just a couple of rows to begin with, to test make sure the tension, make sure it's not going to drop any stitches or anything. Okay, tension is now set, and time to start turning that wheel. Now remember to turn the crank slowly for the first 2 or 3 rows, just to check, to make sure your tension is okay, and make sure you're not going to drop any stitches. It could lose tension, you could drop stitches, and that's not cool. That's not good. Especially if you're quite a way into proceedings. It's okay at the moment because we're only 2 or 3 in, just doing those first 2 or 3 to check our tension. Okay, we're just going to, so we're just at 3. We've just done 3 rows now. We're just going to do a quick lap around the loom to check, to make sure that there's no drop stitches, and to double check our tension. So just a quick lap around. Yep, that looks spot on. Tension looks good. There's no drop stitches. Everything is a-okay. Right, so now we're now 3 stitches in. Now to make a adult scarf with the tube method, we're going up to 230 rows. That'll give you a scarf length around 68 inches, which is about 5 feet, or just shy of 2 meters in old money. So I'm going to go on with that one, and in the meantime, I'm just going to show you a little slideshow of how your tube will progress. The slideshow will show your tube at 30 row intervals, just to show you how the length is, and there'll be some smaller videos in between with other important things to remember, such as remembering to untangle the tube as it gets longer, and how to attach your second ball of yarn as you go. So we'll see you all in 230 rows time. Enjoy! scarf gets longer, you'll notice that the tube starts to tangle up as it gets longer. You won't necessarily notice this on the beanie hat because that's only 110 rows, but this one is over 200, so you'll notice it starting to tangle up. I'll just show you the other end of the tube on the table, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. So you can just see there, it's just starting to tangle up. And it's only where the bottom of the tube is just catching on the table. So when that does happen, and the longer the project, the more likely it will happen, is to stop turning and just untangle the tube like so. So just untangle it like this, so it's, then just lay it out on the table flat. So just turn it around a couple of times, then lay it out nice and flat. And then you can start turning again. Also, while we're here, also take an opportunity to sort of feel the scarf as well. Feel how does the wool feel. That's one of the things when making scarves and buying wool, is to feel the yarn. How does it feel? How would it feel when you wear it? Because it's important if something looks good, it's got to feel good as well. And this grey wool I've been using for the last one, it's very soft and makes perfect scarves and hats. Nice and soft, nice and warm, and looks great. All boxes ticked. So now we've detangled our tube, we can start turning again. And we're currently up to 157, so we'll see you in 230. Okay, we're currently 210 rows into our 230 journey on our scarf, but you may notice that we're running a little low on wool, and we'll need to attach a second one to make it continuous. And this is the easiest way to do it, is take the two ends of the wool, so the one that's on the machine now and the one off our second ball. So we take our two strands of yarn together, twist them round, 1, 2, 3. So on the third turn, just hold that together with your finger and forethumb. No, thumb and forefinger, I'm sorry, my fingers mixed up here. Same as the other side, 3 runs round. Then we just tie it together like this. Just pull the two ends first, and then pull the two ends of the yarn together. So we've got a nice tight knot. And lastly, just cut the ends off like that. Now it's important to keep the knot as small as possible, so it passes through where the wool goes through the machine. Right, now with our new ball of wool tied on, we're ready to resume. Now the one thing to remember is there is a small knot in the wool, and it's going to catch on this arm in a moment. And I'm going to show you a little trick on how to take care of that when it happens. You'll know when the knot's there, because it will just because you'll feel it hit this arm. Yep, and there it is. Just gently lift up the arm here. You can see you can just see there where it's you can see now. Just let me zoom in so you can show you where it is. let's lift this up a little bit. So just where my fingernail is here, you can just see where the knot is and where it's just caught on the arm. Now when that happens, stop turning the handle, lift the arm up just a little bit, take the wool out like so, then put the wool back in so the knot is above, not below. And when you've done that, just give the wool just a little tug like that. That's just to reinstate the tension. So if you're taking the wool out of tension just briefly, then just turn the handle again, and you'll see it will just start to go. It will just pass up through here. You can see the knot just going up, and that's it, gone. And so there you go. So that's how to tie on a new ball of wool onto the machine, so your yarn's continuous. And we'll continue on our journey to 230 rows, and to the next stage of our scarf will be casting off. Yep, 230, we made it. Now it's casting off time. Right, first step, take the wool out of our tensioner, then cut off a long length from the ball of wool we've been using. Then we thread our darning needle. Whereas hold it with your thumb and forefinger to make sure the thread doesn't come out, and then we'll start doing the Okay, before we cast off, we'll need to also take the wool out of this part of our tension as well. So out of the arm, we'll just rest that on the side. And to start casting off, we just turn the handle clockwise until this needle goes down like that. I don't know if you can see. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see see what I mean. Yeah, so it's this hook here that's gone. You can see there, it's just gone down. There's just a loop there. And what we do is we'll take our darning needle, going in from this side. We're going to pick up that loop and just pull the thread all the way through. There we go, all the way. And that's the first loop cast off. Then just repeat the step on the hook next door, like that. That's 2. And 3, and so on. So now we've gone past the third one. All we need to do is just repeat that until we get all the way back round to where you started. Now while I just sort that out, just to show you a quick slideshow of how the casting off process goes. So we'll see you back here in a couple of turns. Okay, we're successfully cast off now, and now we can pull the scarf out from under the machine. So we're going to go out through the side on this one because it's being a much longer tube than the hats, as normally the hats will go out from the top. Right, now it's out from the machine. We're just going to show you what your scarf tube will look like. And there you have one knitted tube scarf. And that looks very good. That's very good indeed. So I've darning needle down there, and that's also that's the tension on from the machine. I've taken that off when moving it from A to B, because unfortunately it has met with a few accidents in the past, so it's just to avoid that breaking. And let's just zoom in on the end of the scarf here. As you can see, if you may remember from the beanie hat video we've done earlier in this series, the tube scarf will have these openings, and I'll be showing, and these ends will be sewn up in the final quarter of the video, so I'll be showing you in just a few moments. So to sew that up, we'll be using the darning needle we used to cast off the tube earlier in the video, and the same colour wool, the same type as before. So grab your darning needle, grab your wool, and let's sew this scarf up. Well, as you can see, we're on the home straight on our scarf now. It's been cast off, it's been knitted, looking real good, and now it's time to sew the ends up. So our first step is to just cut off this tail here. That's on the ends, and right, that's gone. Right, before we sew up the scarf, we're going to use the pegs to hold the two halves of the ends of the scarf together. So we'll just tuck the ends of the scarf in just a little way, and we put our pegs here. So use your thumb from the edge to there. So sort of use your thumb to set the distance for each one. I'll normally use about 4 for an adult scarf. One there, the one on the end. And what we'll do, as we use 3 for this one, because I think they're spaced out quite enough. Just before we do that, just push the ends down so it's nice and flat. And we're going to start in this corner to start the sewing up process. We're going to start here, so we get a long length of yarn. I'll say about arm's length, so we don't want to make it too long, or else it will tangle up. So we'll tie a knot. So using our 2 fingers, wrap it round, pull that through the loop. Then before we tie it, we're going to use this tail. We're going to go round like this, go around 4 times. This will give us quite a large knot, so it doesn't pull through when we tie it up. So after you've done your 4 loops around with that tail, just slowly pull it tight. You can see the knot there is quite large. Yeah, it's got quite a big knot there. Let's move the camera down a bit so you can see the knot and see what it looks like. So you can see there, yeah, you can see there it's quite a large knot now. So as we start sewing, that will catch. So without further ado, let's get our darning needle and let's start sewing up the needle. Not sewing up the scarf, I'm sorry. Sewing up the needle. That's a new one. Okay. So we've got my lucky darning needle. You can use a plastic or a metal one, but I tend to use a plastic one for this one. And to prevent the thread from coming out, so you hold the bottom of the darning with your thumb and forefinger, and then just go through. So just thread the needle through this corner and pull it through until the knot comes through, until the knot hits here where you can see where my thumb is there. That's where the knot will be. Here it comes, ready or not. That's it. And then it goes to the next. Goes to the next part here, and just repeat that same step. It's tangled on our clothes pegs there, but just pull it tight, and then to the next one, and so on until we reach the first peg. So let's just show you where we are. So we're aiming for these rows here. So just see where the threads come through. That's the next one. So we'll just pull that. We'll just pull it through as before. Detangle the yarn because it's got it knotted there. And onwards to the next one. There we go. Yep, yeah, just coming along. Yeah, just going along nicely now. Just so I've got the golden rule there with the hold the bottom of the darning needle and the yarn with the thread and the finger and the fourth thumb of the finger to make sure the thread doesn't come out. It's easily done. So I'm done. Just approaching the first peg now. Apologies, hands in the way there. We're just coming up to the first peg now. So what we do when we're sewing up the ends of the scarf and we get to the first peg, we're going to show what we're going to do is when we get to that first peg, where we are now, we're just going to move that first peg along just a little bit. Just give us a few extra rows to sew up. Now the reason being, that's just to hold that next section of the scarf we're sewing up. Just hold this part together. So as you can see, we've just come up to that peg now. So we're going to take the peg off and we're going to move it along just a little way. Let's to about there, and then we keep them. Then you can resume sewing up the ends as before. And then when we get to that peg again, we're just going to move it along to around here, so just next door to that second pink peg. And then once that's done, we can then, when we get to that one, we can remove the peg, because those parts will be sewed together, and we don't need the peg to hold them down, because it'll be sewn up. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of different. There's probably a lot of different ways of sewing up one of the tube scarves. But since the instructions from my machine were not very, well, were pretty basic. That's probably one of the reasons why I started this series, was to make life a little easier for people who just bought hair like myself, who just started buying these machines. Sort of develop my own, sort of technique for sewing up the tube scarves, and this way works very well. It's using sort of basic, basic stuff, using basic stuff, sort of basic sewing techniques, and a couple of clothes pegs, and that's worked very well for me. This is caught on something there. Let's have a look. Is it caught on something? No, it's all right. It's all good. Yep, we're coming up to the coming up to the next, well, that's where our first clothes peg was. Now it's time to move it along again as before. Right, so one more stitch, and then we can move the peg along. Gotcha. So as before, just move it along a little bit, and then we can start sewing. Then we can start sewing up the next few rows. Right, so now the clothes peg's been moved, you can continue sewing on the other rows, and you keep repeating this process until we get along to the end, to the ends of the scarf here. And when you've got the clothes pegs like this, we've got two next door to each other. So when we get to here, when your sort of stitches get to this point, you can remove this peg and then move on to the next one, and then as before, just move it along a couple of rows until it meets the next one in the queue. And that's where we're going to go now. So that's what we're going to move on to now, is to sew our next few rows, and then move on to the point where we can start taking the clothes pegs off. Sewing is something else I learned very early on, and that was probably some of the earliest crafts I ever did when I was much younger in school. And it's something I haven't really, something I've not done for a while, but so a lot of crafts really just got back into it, along with some of the newer stuff, which is coming up every now and again in the world of craft. And So yeah, sewing it's a useful. Sewing's a very useful embroidery. It's a useful skill to learn, especially in making hats and scarves and the like with knitting. So it all sort of it all crosses over all different skills like that. And it's yeah, it's very useful to have, and it's also it's a fun thing as well for our younger viewers as well, for them to learn how to do embroidery as well. And you don't need an expensive sewing machine there or anything. Just a bag of material and some cotton and some needles, and you can really go to town. You can really have a ball. Yeah, pardon the expression, ball with wool and balls of wool and all that. Anyways, back to business. Right, this clothes peg's ready to be removed now, so we just take that one off over there, and then back to sewing. Yeah, back to sewing up the scarf again. So we're about. Oh, that's one tip to remember: is when you're cutting your length of yarn, sew your scarf up. Try not to make it too long, because it will knot and tangle up, and it's when it comes through. And also another thing to bear in mind is when you're pulling the yarn through, is to use your sewing hand, which is my right one in this case, just to rest it on the scarf to make sure it doesn't slide off the table. So we've got to that point again. So rest one hand on the scarf and then just move the clothes peg along just a little bit. That's about in the right place. Then, as before, oh, it's easy to forget really to hold that yarn at the bottom of the needle with the 2 fingers. I do apologise in advance for the camera shake, so I just just clip the camera stand there. I do have my apologies for that. So for getting too many camera shakes, it's it'll work. Yeah, we're almost home and almost sewn off and ready now. Also to mention really about myself is I'm a scarf person. I'm sort of I'll be lost during the winter without without a warm beanie hat and a scarf. And in fact, when I'm working at my market stall, which I also do alongside these videos and teaching in the community, is I do have a beanie hat and scarf which I did make, as I've shown you in this series. So I've got a nice sort of dark sort of scarlet red hat and scarf I made with the knitting machine. It's looks amazing, and you get so many nice comments as well when people sort of look at the scarf and you tell them you've made it yourself, it can be a real conversation piece as well. Especially if, like myself, you sort of find striking up conversations difficult. And and also another thing is it can also make a great gift if a great gift for someone, a sort of handmade hat and scarf, or if you're also later in this series I'll also be showing you how to make a flat panel scarf as well, like a summer scarf. Will be coming up later. Later in this series. Also using our trusty hook and needle knitting machine. Right, so let's have a look. We're about 3/4 of the way along our scarf now, and since we're that close to the end, we can lose the last peg now and just put that, just use the needle and just sew, and keep sewing to the end now. So enough it's been sewn down to hold it all together. Just detangle the yarn a bit, and we can press on, sew the last little bit together. Also, another thing you can try when you're sewing up the scarf is you could maybe try a different colour yarn for the stitching. It doesn't have to necessarily match the colour of the scarf. Be as creative as you can be. There's no with craft. There's no rules. There's no sort of written rules to it. And often, as I tell a lot of my students as well at the groups I teach, is there's no silly questions in craft. There's no such thing as boundaries, and so there's no imagination. There's no boundaries. So why should craft have boundaries too? And that's I think that's the beauty of craft in terms of that's the beauty of craft really, is that there is no boundary and no limit of what you can do. If you can put your mind to any project, then you can really put your mind to it. Then you can pretty much create anything and really stand out from the crowd. And that's one of the very reasons actually I do craft in the first place, is to not only support the community but also to really sort of push the boundaries of creativity as well. Right, so we've come to the end now, and so we've just got to tie the end up to make sure it's not going to come unravelled. So poke our needle through and just tie. We're just going to tie it off. So we put it through till we've got a little tiny loop like so. Put the needle through, pull the yarn all the way to the end, and then just pull it so it goes to the end, and just give it a tug. If it feels tight, then it'll hold together. Just cut the yarn off, cut the excess off from the other end as well, where you started with a long tail. You can just cut that off. And there we have it. We have one end of the scarf nicely sewn up. So to repeat that at the other end, and you'll end up with something that looks a little like this. And there we have our first handmade knitted scarf for the winter, our first winter tube scarf. And I'd say that's it's been a very fun project to work on. It's actually one of my favourites, along with the beanie hats I've made, which I've shown you in earlier episodes. If you haven't already seen that one and get a chance to check it out along with the other videos in this series, by all means have a look. So that's all we've got time for today. Well, I hope you enjoyed our 20th video. Thanks again for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, by all means, give us by all means subscribe. We have we've got loads of new videos coming up between now and the end of the year. We've got new episodes of the Nick Machine Workshop coming up later this year. We've got a whole mass of different things coming up. And also later in the year, in the run up to Christmas, around autumn winter time, we'll also have new episodes of our Christmas series Underneath the Tree to look out for. Lots of new projects on that one, which I'm sure you'll enjoy. So when you do subscribe, don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll get notifications via YouTube account for our latest videos as soon as they hit. And also don't forget you can also follow us on social media on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Handles are coming up at the end of the video. And also, if you're based in the Surrey area, you can also join our Running Me Crafts group on nextdoor.org. Just search Running Me Crafts and send us an invite, and we'll let you in. You can shop with us and learn with us there. We've got 60 members currently, and it's growing by the week. But last but not least, you can also follow us on Patreon, help us support our work in the community. And finally, almost forgot, you can also shop with us as well at www.runningmecrafts.com. .com, I'm sorry, can't get my words out. Click on the online store, and also have on there the dates for our next market stalls and our community events coming up later in the year. So once again, I hope you enjoyed our 20th video. Hope you join us for many more. Stay crafty, take care. Bye for now.